What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Thanks for pressing play. Today we're going to talk about two different things with the C8 Corvette, but the first one is going to be that Motor Trend is saying that the E-Ray Corvette is going to actually be faster than the C8 Corvette Z06. Let's dive into it right now. Alright guys, so the first bit of information comes from our friends over at the CorvetteBlogger.com. As usual, it's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Corvette stuff, and they are talking about an article that Motor Trend put out saying that the C8 Corvette E-Ray is going to be faster than the C8 Z06. That's the headline of the article over there, and yeah, it gets better as we read further along. Before we get too much into it though, guys, if you could please go ahead and smash that thumbs up button, let me know you're liking the content, let YouTube know you're liking the content, so I can continue to create this kind of stuff for you guys. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, the Corvette Blogger article starts out by saying one of the most appealing features of this rumored E-Ray Corvette will be its electric all-wheel drive system that can apply power to all four wheels of the Corvette instead of just the traditional rear-wheel drive. That change alone has many speculating on just how fast the 0 to 60 time will be, as well as how it will compare to the performance-oriented Z06 model. Motor Trend has more Corvette news in this month's magazine under the MT Confidential column that offers some new numbers to the E-Ray rumor mill. They say that the E-Ray will be what the Grand Sport model was in the C7 generation, and that is, quote unquote, a Corvette that's sharper and faster than the irregular model, yet still affordable and accessible as a daily driver. But here's the exciting part of the equation. The Corvette Blogger then quotes the Motor Trend article where they said, but what makes the C8 E-Ray radically different from the old C7 Grand Sport is that its increased performance won't be the result of tweaks to the 6.2 liter V8 engine, but of a front-mounted electric motor that is said to develop 215 horsepower. With all-wheel drive and a total system output of close to 590 horsepower, the E-Ray will be quicker to 60 than the forthcoming C8 Z06, Detroit sources say. But don't feel too bad for those who pay more for the Corvette Z06. As the MT Confidential says, the C8 Z06 with its high-revving, naturally aspirated quad-cam V8 and track-tuned chassis will be the faster car overall. So I'm not entirely surprised here, because ultimately what we're talking about is a 0 to 60 time for an all-wheel drive car versus a 0 to 60 time for a rear-wheel drive car. Typically the all-wheel drive car launches a lot better, and in this case the E-Ray is very likely to have an all-wheel drive setup due to that front electric motor. But at the same time, the Z06 is going to probably be lighter weight, higher revving, and just overall built more for the track. Now, with that said, a lot of the power that can be used around town, so to speak, is going to be that 0 to 60 time. So a lot of the stuff that the Z06 is going to have packed into the engine bay is not necessarily going to be really useful around town. So it kind of depends on what you're buying this car for and how you're going to use it as to which one of these two models you should really look at. Now, the E-Ray is obviously going to offer better gas mileage. It's also going to offer what I can only imagine is going to be an even more insane launch control mode than the base Stingray has now. As of right now, the base Stingray is hitting 0 to 60 in well under 3 seconds. With the all-wheel drive setup of the E-Ray, it could possibly hit low 2s, and that would be absolutely insane. But at the same time, the E-Ray is likely to not be a great track car. Typically, the electronic or even hybrid-assisted motor cars don't do fantastic on the track, and that's unfortunate because it is the future, but at the same time, hybrid or electric cars are typically a little bit heavier, and they also need more of a normal driving schedule to really ramp up that charge to hold enough power to really make those motors useful.
Before we continue, I just wanted to thank Hyperion for again sponsoring today's video. Without getting too technical, it basically blocks the frequency from your key fob to your car and will stop potential thieves from stealing said frequency to gain access to your car. I have the remote in my hand and my car is turned on. With the car off, I take the remote, place it inside the Hyperion case, put the cap on, and now if I go to try to start the car, I am presented with a message that tells me the remote is not detected. I will put the link in the description down below. If you guys are interested, you can get one for 35% off plus free shipping just for being a horsepower obsessed fan.
Now, where things start to get really interesting in this Motor Trend article is where they start talking about the Corvette SUV. Yes, if you guys haven't heard about it, there is very likely a Corvette SUV coming that's going to kind of mirror what Ford did with their Mustang, and now the Mustang Mustang Mach-E. So ultimately, the Corvette SUV is going to be an electric-powered SUV branded Corvette. I'm not overly excited about it. I would imagine most of you out there aren't either, but apparently the Motor Trend Confidential section did some reporting on this as well. The Motor Trend Confidential article starts out with saying the E-Vet SUV is real. That electric-powered Corvette crossover you all thought you saw lurking in the shadows during design chief Mike Simcoe's segment of GM's 2021 CES keynote presentation, it's for real. To be built on GM's new Ultium BEV architecture and expected to make its debut in 2024. This electric Vet SUV will be a four-door, four-seat, performance-tuned crossover with key design cues lifted from the mid-engine C8. Although the idea of the Corvette being anything other than a two-door sports car might have purists clutching their pearls, in an era when sports car stalwarts Jaguar and Porsche are building BEV crossovers, not to mention Ford has even badged its BEV crossover a Mustang. It makes good business sense. And whispers out of Detroit hint the crossover may not be the only four-door electric Corvette we'll see. A lower, faster Ultium-based Porsche Taycan rival is reportedly also under consideration. So like I said, guys, I'm sure most of you out there are not overly excited about the Corvette SUV, but at the same time, it looks like it's coming, so you might as well get prepared for it. I have seen a bunch of renderings of what this thing could look like, and at the end of the day, it's not a bad-looking SUV, but it's just not a Corvette to me. The same thing with the Mustang Mach-E. I'm not a giant Mustang fan, but at the same time, I don't believe that Ford should have taken the Mustang name and applied it to an SUV. They could have called that one of a million different things that would have even signified that it's a Mustang without actually calling it a Mustang. I kind of hope that GM feels the same way and ends up calling this Corvette SUV something else, but I don't know. I won't hold my breath. But anyway, guys, the next bit of information here is going to be a little upsetting to those of you who already own a C8 Corvette because it is also having some wheel issues. So if you guys aren't familiar with the C7 Corvette and their class action lawsuit about cracking wheels, well, it looks like the C8 has a similar issue, not necessarily cracking wheels, but a wheel issue nonetheless. So again, our friends over at the CorvetteBlogger.com put together an article talking about the fact that GM had issued a service bulletin for the C8 Corvette over faulty wheel castings. Whenever I read that, it immediately just hit me right in the chest because Chevy should have learned their lesson with the C7 and all the wheel issues that that car had, but apparently they didn't because the C8 is having some as well. Now, like I said, it is not because they're cracking. There is a different issue here. The Corvette blogger starts out by saying that the General Motors has released a new technical service bulletin today for the 2020 and 2021 Corvette regarding wheel casting with exposed porosity, which is just a fancy way of saying some Corvette wheels have holes in them from the casting process. I'll put some pictures up here so you guys can see, but basically those holes in the casting process lead to weak spots. So it is possible these could crack, but at the same time, none have been reported just yet that I know of. The C8 Corvette's wheel porosity issues are covered in TSB N202315730. The cover sheet claims that the total number of US vehicles involved is approximately 13,049, with only 10% of those vehicles believed to be impacted. In the TSB, dealers are notified that the affected vehicles should be marked in the GM Global Warranty Management System, and when these cars come into a Chevrolet dealership for service, the technicians will need to inspect all four wheels and replace if necessary. GM provides a list of part numbers for the wheels, and it shows that both the open spoke and the Trident wheel designs are in fact included in the TSB. But here are some additional images that GM supplied showing the various porosity issues in the wheels. And like I said, guys, this may just look like a cosmetic problem, but if those holes are deep enough, it could absolutely lead to a cracking issue as well. GM says that any wheels identified as having the porosity issue need to have a 13mm hole drilled completely through the rim barrel of the wheel so they can't be reused, and then dispose of the faulty wheel through a reputable metal recycler. At least GM is acknowledging the manufacturing defects and offering to replace any affected wheels at their cost. Owners of the C7s were obviously not as lucky, and many have joined several ongoing class action lawsuits as GM has denied any responsibility for those wheels that have cracked or bent. So on one one hand, guys, it is nice that Chevy's taking care of this, but on the other hand, it is a little ridiculous that we are still having this kind of issue after all of the issues the C7 guys have gone through. Knock on wood, I have had two different C7s, a Z06 and a ZR1, and I have not had any issues with cracking or bending of my stock wheels. So I can't personally comment on this, but I do know of a lot of people who have had the issue who don't necessarily track the car or even drive it aggressively, and that's where my concern comes in. I haven't checked my C8 wheels just yet, but I will be taking a look at them shortly to see if they have this issue. I recommend you guys do the same, because if they do, you can get them replaced for free. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. So if you liked what you saw, please give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions about any of the content we talked about today, shoot them in the comment section down below, and I will make sure you get an answer. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, guys, please do. I'm going to have loads of C8 Corvette information like this coming that you're not going to want to miss. And as usual, guys, I will catch you in the next upload.